Getting started. We have a quorum. Can I get approval of minutes of the regular meeting of January 9th, 2012?
I would move approval, but I also have a correction.
Okay.
Second motion.
And Alderman Holmes, can you talk about the correction?
I sure will. I'm trying to pull it up.
Great. All right.
I did highlight it, so I wouldn't forget. Thanks to Alderman Grover, who found it for me. But he mentioned that on page, it would be page 27 of the packet. It says, actually, it's the
Alderman Holmes, do you have your microphone on?
It's not on. Okay, I'm sorry. Page 27, second paragraph, well, first paragraph. Alderman Holmes mentioned that Oakton and other main entries to the city should be permanently posted for 20 miles per hour. And then Alderman Burris responded that Oakton is a unique entry to the city. That's not what I said. What I said was that Oakton, like other entries, and what would happen if Oakton was posted 20 miles per hour, what would happen with the other ones? And that was your response. I just want to make sure we had that clear.
Okay. We'll make that change. Are there any other changes? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? City of Evanston payroll through January 1st, 2012, $2,436,199.97.
Move approval. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
City of Evanston bills for fiscal year 2011 through January 24th, 2012, in the amount of $2,283,860.79. And City of Evanston bills fiscal year 2012 through January 25th, 2012, of $863,940.68. And we have answers to Bill's questions.
I'll move approval first. I'll second.
We're going to take a few minutes to look through the answers for the Bill's questions. And then if anybody has any questions to ask staff. Alderman Grover, did you? Okay. Is your light on?
No.
Okay, no, I just wasn't sure if it was working. No, Alderman Rainey.
Yes.
Sorry.
Madam Chair, there's a reference in here to a payment for an appearance by legal. Thank goodness they appeared. But I just wanted to point out that in my question, I put a link to a set of minutes from, I don't even remember what year, 2009, where this was argued, this issue was argued of 241 Callan. And I opposed it from the minute I heard the developer was going to purchase the property because it was a very tiny, not very problematic apartment building, 5 units. And there was absolutely no reason to convert this property. It was a bad, even in the best of times, it was a bad choice for a conversion. And the city insisted on giving him a bunch of money, and we did. And then I think we gave him some more money to help him out when he, couldn't sell them. His units, once he purchased the building and renovated them, were more expensive than market rate units that were available for sale all over the city, on the north side, on the east side. So I hope, and I know because our legal department is very aggressive, that we do everything humanly possible to make ourselves whole on this property. And whatever it takes in legal fees, I'll support it.
Okay. Any response from council?
But could I just say one other thing? I think for those who were not, was everybody here in 2009?
We just
here.
in
So
May.
maybe it would be a good, might be a good idea to go back and just, I'm looking at it, it's April 2009, so you might.
It was
not
right after the
have even
election.
proceeded.
We were sworn in May.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not your fault.
I remember it though.
Well, two of you, yes, but two of us, no.
My suggestion would be just to peruse these minutes and see what your thinking would be, and to remember when something like that comes back to us today, just a thought.
Grant, any response?
Chairman Burris and members of the committee, just to amplify on Alderman Rainey's comments, we will do our level best to prosecute the city's interest in this matter and aggressively litigate, and do our level best to garner what recovery we can. The one caveat is obviously the litigation process relative to these cases is slow, but that is not going to stop us from doing what we can to prosecute the city's interest.
Alderman Rainey?
Is the bank, the lending bank, still in business?
That's one of the things I'm trying to run down right now.
Any other questions on the bills or the bills' answers? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Items for consideration, A 3.1, approval of contract award to Manuos General Contracting Incorporated for the Service Center Locker Room Renovation Project, bid 12-57. Staff recommends approval of the base bid plus alternate one for the Service Center Locker Room Renovation Project to Manuos General Contracting Incorporated in a total amount of $311,630. Funding will be provided by the fiscal year 2012 capital improvement plan carryover of $7,500 from account 415229, and from fiscal year 2012 capital improvement plan account 415229 with a budget amount of $392,500.
Move approval.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. A 3.2, approval of contract award to G.A. Johnson & Son for the Service Center Parking Deck Repair Project, bid 12-65. Staff recommends approval of the base bid plus alternates 1 and 3 for the Service Center Parking Deck Repair Project to G.A. Johnson & Son in the total amount of $554,880. Funding will be provided by the 2012 CIP account 415224 with a budget allocation of $700,000.
Second.
Alderman Rainey.
Chairman Burris, I just wanted to comment that this purchase and the previous purchase, the documents supporting them, I thought were just really very well done and left nothing to the imagination.
And
I really like reading these where you don't have to say, I wonder what,
And I think that that's also a good segue to mention to people in the audience as well as out watching, that you can find, when we talk about Alternative 1, Alternative 3, the information that Alderman Rainey just referenced can be found on the website under Government, under Agendas, at AP&W Agendas, if you want to find out further information. All those in favor?
Aye.
A 3.3, approval of renewal of elevator service agreement with Otis Elevator Corporation for the Civic Center, Service Center, Maple Avenue, and Church Street Self Parks.
Second.
Any questions? I have one question about this and the next one, A 3.4. Why are we not combining the elevator service agreements? Why are we separating them? It would seem like we would get a better deal.
This is the end of that. We're going to do that next time.
Okay, never mind. I just got the answer. Thank you. All those in favor of A 3.3? A3.4, approval of renewal of elevator service agreement with Faison Krupp Elevator Corporation for the Sherman Plaza South Park.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. A3.5, approval of renewal of annual Azteca City Works maintenance and support agreement.
I move approval.
Do you want to read it? I mean, I'm sorry, you've been moving approval, so I'm happy to read
Yeah,
it.
I thought you were finished.
No, I was, I'm going to go.
I thought you were reading for the purpose of the audience. and
Well,
so that's
yes,
why I
well,
was
and
looking
then,
at you.
and then Alderman was like, I approve, so I was waiting. So staff recommends approval to renewal the annual sole source maintenance and support agreement for the term February 21, 2012 through February 21, 2013 with Azteca Systems Incorporated for City Works work order and service request management software in the amount of $22,405. Funding is provided by specific amounts in Utilities Department 311 and Information Technology Divisions. Great.
And I would still second it.
And do we have any questions? All those in favor?
Right.
A3.6, approval of renewal of annual Acela maintenance and support agreement. Staff recommends approval to renew the annual sole source maintenance and support agreement for the term March 15th, 2012 through March 14th, 2013 with Acela Incorporated for the city's Acela automation software system in the amount of $130,951.34. Funding is provided by the Computer Licensing and Support Operating Account in the Information Technology Division with a 2012 budget of $131,000.
Second.
Alderman Rainey.
I read here that, I mean, I've been hearing about this piece of software for years and always thought that when I saw inspectors in the field and things, I would see them on their touchpad or their handheld something or another device. And it says in here that that's what we're doing, that we do real-time tracking of activities related to permits and licenses. Who actually has seen people doing this, and who does it? And I just don't know.
Can we, Mr.
mean-
Lyons is going to get an answer for us.
When you come to housing court or administrative adjudication, people have piles of paper. I don't see any computerized anything going on here. I mean, if you read this, I mean, it sounds like building and health are doing it, but I'd like to know what is it that they're doing to do real time on this? Do they go back to the office and use the software, or are they actually punching in temperatures in the field in their computers?
Mr. Bobkowitz is here to answer the question.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, good evening. Alderman Rainey's question regarding the use of the software in the field, I think, is a mixed bag. We do have laptops, hardened laptops that many of the inspectors bring with them to sites. I think it is a mix of folks who use that on site as well as folks who come back to the office and use that. Is there an opportunity for us to use these softwares in a more efficient way, as Alderman Rainey is talking about? Absolutely. PAL is one of those systems, and actually, Madam Chair, since I'm here, we've kind of put together all of our larger legacy systems license renewals together this evening because they kind of do tell a story, and the story is that the city continues to spend lots of money on legacy systems that we've had for a long time, some of which probably aren't serving our needs as well as other new systems would. And I think as we look and grapple with next generations, the PAL software is one of those systems that we probably have never used to its fullest extent possible. So Mr. Griffin and Mr. Murphy are working with staff to see what we can do. I think largely we're looking toward the future for next generation versions of these software, but we are very hesitant to leap into those because we're really kind of in between stages, and that also the Oracle software that's on tonight as well is another example that largely powers our finance system. We're kind of in between generations of software, and yes, there are permit softwares that are more up to date, but they're still largely run on large servers, and we've been reluctant to move towards systems that really aren't looking at more next generation web-based cloud-based system. So I think in a long answer to Alderman Rainey's question, we're still using older technology. We're using it remotely to the best of our abilities, but I think you're going to see with the hiring of a new IT manager this spring, really a movement not only with the PAL system, but our finance system to a next generation that will be more adaptable, more mobile as we move forward.
That answer your question?
I'm just going to drop it for now.
Okay.
Well, but it's an important issue, and Alderman Rainey, let me go back to it, that we do have folks who use laptops in the field. Are they using them as much as they probably could? My guess is probably not. And we continue to work with individual staff. Some choose to use the information online. PAL is one of those systems, in my estimation, we never adequately implemented. And because we've not adequately implemented, we're not using it to its fullest capacity. And that's an issue we continue to work on.
And what does PAL mean? What does that stand for?
Permits and licensing, and there's Mr. Griffin sitting right there. So
Permits and licensing?
Permit and licensing, PAL. Mr. Griffin is here, and I know has looked carefully at the system in his time as Community Development Director. Anything to add, Steve?
I think to Alderman Rainey's point, Steve Griffin, Director of Community Economic Development, what has not been fully deployed is the property standards and property maintenance group. That's where you see them. So that program is not up and running. We're still using the old Access database for that. But what the city manager is talking about, what is fully deployed, is the building inspections, the plan review function, and that so when the system was put up and running, they opted to go the building inspector's route and not integrate yet property standards and property maintenance. And like the city manager is also saying, that's what we're in the process of doing right now, making a decision whether to continue with the Access, a different database that we're using, and make that a whole lot smarter and better, or migrate fully into PAL. And that's a lot of discussions between the new IT director and kind of what I've been used to in my other jobs.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. A3.7, approval of renewal of annual Oracle maintenance and support agreement. Staff recommends approval to renew the annual sole source maintenance and support agreement for the term March 1st, 2012 through February 28th, 2013 with the Oracle Corporation for the city's J.D. Edwards Enterprise One software in the amount of $145,024. Funding is provided by the Computer Licensing and Support Operating Account in the Information Technology Division with a budget of $145,000.
Move approval.
Second.
Alderman Grover.
Yeah, I think another part of the story, too, is we're also seeing where a lot of these vendors held their contract costs flat for 1 or 2 years and held the increases in abeyance. Now we're starting to see those upticks in the costs of the contracts on an annual basis.
And Alderman Grover,
too much
members
to
of the
hope
committee,
for.
the additional challenge with this piece of software is that component parts of it will no longer be supported as we move forward. And the staff is here. Mr. Sloan has spent the better part of the last year of his life working on solutions for alternatives, and quite honestly, I've raised the bar pretty high to say I did not want to come to the council until we had a solution that was equal in cost to our continuing to pay the Oracle licensing fees. So again, we're a foot in each world. I mean, we came close as we were preparing the budget for 2012, but we weren't quite there. So we're going to continue this process. We're getting to the point where that system is just not going to function for us moving forward. But I don't want to come back to the council with a next generation solution that I don't feel comfortable will last us for a significant period of time. You know, we can't be reinventing wheels. Unfortunately, over an extended period of time, the city of Evanston has always crafted a computer system to match its business processes versus adjusting its business processes to match computer systems that are used by other jurisdictions. And so as we move forward, I want to make sure that we look at an accounting system that is something that other like jurisdictions are using. If we have to adjust some of our business processes in order to do that, great. But I also want to make sure that we're not the last jurisdiction in America to buy a version of a software when the next generation is about to come out. And my sense is that we're at the very end of a generation of types of software that deal with enterprise financial systems, and we're not quite at that next generation yet. And that's been frustrating. I think many of the vendors that support these services are still doing a good business supporting a current generation of software. I think we're not going to have the luxury to wait much longer, and I think during 2012, unless we're able to identify that next generation, we may be forced to go with the very end of the current generation, because if we're not able to pay bills, and we had a hiccup just with the turn of the year with our accounts payable system, still not liking those funny 20 years. I mean, here we are 11 years into the new millennium, and we're still having hiccups with that. So you're going to hear more about this as we move forward, but we are at that point of diminishing returns, I think, on the existing system, and we are going to have to make some hard decisions, again, for probably a fairly expensive investment, but I want to make sure that we make the right investment so that we're not here 3 years later saying, whoops, here's another big chunk of money that we need.
Alderman Rainey.
Having read this several times and remembering way back when and up to the present time, I've never heard any member of our staff, and maybe people who love this software just don't talk about it, but I've never heard anybody say this is the greatest decision we ever made to go with this J.D. Edwards, blah, blah, blah. Maybe I just didn't hear from them. But I think we have to bite the bullet, and I understand what you're saying about maybe being caught in the middle here between the new stuff and the old stuff, but I just think there's got to be communities out there happy with their software. And you are in the forefront of, municipal government around the country. So help us.
And Alderman Rainey, I agree with you. And I think one of the challenges we have as a city, and this city council's made it very clear, that as we look at difficult budget decisions, we're trying to decrease the amount we spend on overhead like information technology and make sure that there's money to do other things around the community. But we are at a critical point. We are not going to be able to stay on our existing financial system much longer. It was in the estimation of staff that last year was the last year that we should be on that. And I was personally not satisfied with the business plan that was brought forward by staff. So I think we're at the end of the line. But again, this council has been very critical of software purchases over a long period of time. I want to make sure that criticism goes away when we can bring to you good, reasoned decisions as we move forward. And again, I imagine we'll be talking more about this during the course of the year.
I think if we all understood the pain and suffering that this whole system causes, that we might be very amenable to moving on, cutting bait.
And I think Alderman Grover, members of the committee, Alderman Rainey, were there.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? A3.8, approval of single-source street sweeper repairs. Staff recommends pre-approval of repair expenses associated with a biannual inspection, overhaul, and required maintenance of street sweeper number 661 in an amount not to exceed $30,000 from Standard Equipment Company. Standard is the authorized service provider for Elgin Pelican products. Funding will be provided from the fiscal year 2012 budget, fleet services, material to maintain autos account.
Move approval.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. A 3.9, approval of contract award for 2012 fuel purchases. Staff recommends approval for the first 7 months of fiscal year 2012 fuel purchases in the amount of $555,000 from World Fuel Services Incorporated. Funding will be provided from the Fleet Services Major Maintenance Budget for Automotive Equipment account.
Move approval.
I
Alderman Rainey?
think it's important to note, I wasn't paying real close attention to your reading, but that this is a Northwest Municipal Conference regional purchase, and so
So we're getting a better deal because we're buying with a larger group.
which we do frequently, and our staff, in keeping with their due diligence, did do some checking of estimates just to make sure that it was still the best price, and it is.
And I believe that we're also working with Ridgeville to do fuel along with them as well.
Are they doing it?
I
mean,
believe
we-
so.
We had the meeting.
Sorry, Doug Gaynor has walked out of the room, but I believe that they were working with
Good.
Ridgeville as well. So it helps everybody. All those in favor?
Aye.
A 3.10, approval of publication agreement with Muni Code for the Evanston City Code 2012. Staff recommends that the City Council authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute an agreement with Muni Code in the amount of $30,560 plus tax and shipping for the publication of the 2012 City Code. Funding will be provided by General Legal Services. Any questions?
It's not the Republican agreement.
And I want to know why we're paying taxes. Why are we paying, yes.
I want to know why.
It says plus tax and shipping. I don't know why we're paying taxes.
Florida taxes.
Aye, sorry.
Hi, Grant for our Corporation Counsel. The publisher is having some dialogue with us on that point, and we've made it clear that taxes should not be payable. So just for purposes of completeness, I wanted to indicate that that is just a minor issue of contention with the publisher, but other than that, we should have that issue wrapped up along with the republication.
What's the tax rate while you're at it? Right, why is the shipping, no.
Well, we're gonna look into those issues following the concern expressed on the floor.
Fabulous. Alderman Grover, sorry, did you have your hand up?
Thank you, Mr. Farrar. While you're there, do we have right now plans to address and revise Titles 6 and 3, Chapter 5, liquor licensing? Is that on your to-do list, or are we going to?
It is.
Take our time with that.
It is Alderman Grover. The liquor code revisions is going to be something that I'm going to be looking at in the first quarter, second quarter this year. And with respect to zoning, I believe that some of the comprehensive plan amendments are starting to wend their way through. So I'm going to sit down with staff and talk about that. That one is a little bit more difficult because it's really Title VI is really a standalone, and I want to really be careful in terms of what's in the pipeline now, but it is on our radar to try and bring that more in line with current usage and vernacular, the way that we've done with the other 10 titles of the code.
Alderman Rainey.
Might have missed it, but why do we need 35 copies, and do they also provide CDs? It'll be online though, right? So we don't.
Correct.
All right.
That's actually an issue that I've raised with the publisher last week, and to answer your question, I don't know why we have 35 copies, so I'm going to reduce that number. It's my understanding that some of these copies go to Skokie, they go to the Skokie Public Library, they go to some of the other adjoining municipalities. Again, that's something that I think is related to pre-internet usage of a code. So I'm going to be trying to get a discount on that. I don't see any reason to bring out 35 volumes.
Well, I know, I'll bet it goes back at least to when there were 18 aldermen. There would be 18 of these huge books delivered to us, 2 volumes sometimes. I mean, I do not want one, so subtract one.
We're going to bring that number down, Alderman.
Probably won't.
And I have a question on the amount that we're being charged. When I was looking at this number, did we look at other businesses that do this, or is this a limited number of publishers? It just seemed like a lot of money to redo make changes in a code.
Well, and part of the problem was that the fact that the code hasn't been revised since 1979, there's a lot of cross-references that internally staff worked and remediated on, and I think, you know, the quote even reflects that that staff, through the internal work, saved at least $10,000. Part of the problem is that once we catch those, they still have to be put into the new format of the republished code. So that's obviously a source point, a point of source work product that the codifier does. The reason why we're using Municode is that they're the current codifier. Clerk Green switched over, I believe, almost 2 years ago from Sterling to Municode. I think that the Municode product has been a lot better than our prior codifier, Sterling. And to answer your other question about what do other similarly situated municipalities pay, they're probably not recodifying their codes the way we should have done a long time ago either. So there are no comps that give a good comparison on that.
Right. And I would echo Alderman Rady's comment of, I'm not sure that all of us need the code. We have it online. I think most of us do our work online now, and it's much easier for us to search. So if we can reduce the amount of money we're spending by having less copies, I would assume that we would be on board with that.
We will certainly do our due diligence on that.
Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
A4, Resolution 2-R-12 regarding a letter of understanding between the City of Evanston and the City Lit Theater to be located at 727 to 729 Howard Street. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt Resolution 2-R-12, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute a letter of understanding between the City of Evanston and City Lit Theater for the consideration of a lease-to-own agreement at city-owned property at 727 to 729 Howard Street.
Move approval.
Second.
Alderman Rainey?
I think Community Development, Economic Development has a presentation, small presentation to make.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, Alderman Grover, I didn't see your light at first.
No, that was from the last agenda item.
Great.
Good evening, Johanna Nyden, Economic Development Coordinator. We have before you a resolution to enter into an agreement, a letter of understanding with the City Lit Theater, and I just wanted to introduce them. They're here tonight. Do you guys want to stand? Terry McCabe in the middle, and Brian Pastor, and they've brought a board member as well, Nancy Flowers. They've expressed strong interest in locating in Evanston. At least 2/3 of that group is Evanston residents. They're interested in being on Howard Street.
And which ward?
9.
9.
They didn't know when they moved there.
They're interested in locating in the space. However, we've had a number of discussions with them, but before they move forward, they want to have a better understanding from the City of Evanston that we're interested in moving forward with them as well. So they're here to answer any questions about their programming, about their intentions to come here.
Any questions?
So can we get a little presentation?
Which, absolutely.
I'm Terry McCabe. I'm the artistic director at City Lit. This is Brian Pastor, City Lit's managing director. I've lived here in Evanston since 1978 and was lucky enough to work at both other Howard Street theaters, the Practical Theater, which was at Howard and Custer, and Wisdom Bridge Theater further east and on the Chicago side of the street, both now long gone, of course. All of us at City Lit are very excited about the possibility of becoming the third Howard Street Theater. If it all works out for City Lit to move here from our current home in Edgewater and become Evanston's newest theater company, we would immediately also become Evanston's oldest theater company. We're in our 32nd season, going back to 1979. We produce what we call literate theater, meaning mostly but not exclusively world premieres of stage adaptations of literary material such as novels, short stories, and so on. Also plays, whether world premieres or classics, that seem to us to have some stature as literature. Currently, we're in the second year of our ongoing Civil War sesquicentennial project, in which one show each year, usually a world premiere and always opening in April, commemorates and explores the legacy of the Civil War. We produce shows about 36 weeks of the year, and when we're not producing, we sublet our stage out to other companies for their shows. All told, we bring about 6,000 people a year to our stretch of Bryn Mawr Avenue. Once they're there, by far the majority of them spend other money at other businesses near us. They have drinks, rather they have dinner before the show, or they have drinks after the show, or both, or maybe they pay a parking valet or put gas in the car, whatever. Our average ticket price, after all our various discounts are factored in, is about $17. We know the average City Lit audience member spends more than that at one of our restaurant neighbors, at any of our restaurant neighbors, because they're nice sit-down restaurants and you can't get a good meal and leave a nice tip at any of them for as little as we charge for our tickets. That is to say, the restaurant across the street from City Lit makes more money from a typical City Lit audience member than we do. But the reason that person comes to the block in the first place is to see our show. Beyond our main programming, there are a few other things we do. In cooperation with the American Library Association's Office of Intellectual Freedom, every fall during Banned Books Week, we perform free concert readings at libraries across the city of Chicago and in suburbs of excerpts from that year's LA list of the top 10 most frequently challenged books in the country. We co-sponsor with a group called the Viola Project, a year-round series of Shakespeare performance workshops for adolescent girls ages 8 to 16, in which they learn to play not only Juliet and Rosalind and Ophelia, but also Richard III and Malvolio and King Lear and Hamlet. We have a partnership with Woodson Elementary School on the south side of Chicago, in which City Lit teaching artists work in the school for weeks with the faculty and students in a range of classes, including their special ed class, to help the students devise their own adaptations and performance of a book that's in their curriculum, using the process of preparing to perform a piece of literature as a particularly effective way of studying that piece of literature. And we have a ticket giveaway program in which we donate tickets to our shows. Last year was about $18,000 worth to other not-for-profit groups, scout troops, hospitals, churches and synagogues, animal rescue centers, other arts groups, for them to use in their own fundraising efforts as silent auction items or whatever. So that's who we are. It's nice to meet you. And we look forward to the opportunity that you're here to vote on this evening. Thank you for your attention and your time. Brian and I are happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
Alderman Rainey?
Well, I don't have any questions right now. I'm looking forward to your being present when the entire council is here. All this committee will do is recommend or not recommend to the whole council
Gotcha.
support of the proposal before us. But for those who haven't heard on this committee, and I think I've talked the ear off most, we interviewed 3 different theaters. You know about Polarity. A local person is also the artistic director of that. We talked to John Shostak from the Main Street Theater, and Terry McCabe. We asked all of them to present to us a plan. Everybody wanted to be here. People who have just read about it in the paper want to be here, but these are the 3 we interviewed. And it seems that really the group with the most capacity is City Lit. And their tenure, their longevity, their ability to attract is just amazing. And in private conversations with them and staff, they've told us about the geographical area from which their season ticket holders come. And, I mean, there are actually people in Indiana who come to their shows.
Valparaiso.
Oak Park. I mean, from all over people come to their shows. So we think that it's an opportunity that Howard Street and the city of Evanston can't pass up, no matter where they located in this city. But we have a place. And in addition to singing the praises of City Lit, I want to say that when I asked people to come forward and take a look at the building we purchased at 727 29 Howard, and take a look at it and see if we could do a theater there, the volunteers that came forth who charge regular clients hundreds of dollars an hour was amazing. And many of them have worked for the city in one capacity or the other. Bully Andrews came forth and did an entire estimate of raising the roof of this building for the purpose of providing for a theater. Once we do this, any theater could be here, really. And that's what I hope City Lit does, is connect with other theaters that we've already talked to and invite them to do performances there. I think it's an opportunity of a lifetime for City Lit as well, because you don't get these chances often as you're not itinerant. If you've been around since
Right, yeah,
79.
no, we're not itinerant. We've been in the space we're in now since the
Right.
tail end of 1999.
Yeah, so, I mean, they're pretty established, but it's in a church, on the second floor of a church, and the time has come to say, you know, the new Howard Street Theater is City Lit. So hopefully, the negotiations will go well, and everybody that I've talked to has embraced you. Today, we got a letter from 415 Howard ownership from Texas supporting this and asking, is there anything they can do to help to make this happen?
There's plenty they can do.
So we were thinking of like the 415 Howard Theater or something like that. So anyway, it's just amazing. And the interesting thing is, we did not go out looking for City Lit. City Lit read an article in the paper about the city buying properties on Howard Street, and they wrote to me 6 months ago,
Yeah,
probably.
June or July, I think, yeah.
Saying, if there's ever an opportunity for you to talk to us, to come, please let us know. We'd like to, partner with you. So I don't know what more I can say. I mean, hopefully somebody else has a question. I don't know.
No, I'm excited to get your proposal. And are there theater companies that you already work with to rent out the other 20-odd weeks?
Oh, sure. We have some people who rent from us regularly. We have some people who, rent from us once, and that, it's very fluid.
But
But we know that people.
Talk about the cinema part. That is very exciting to
Well,
us.
part of our proposal to come to Howard Street involves keeping the space open 7 days a week. Most theaters, including us currently, only produce about half the week, Thursday through Sunday or something like that. But of course, it would be great for, the whole Howard Street development project if the building were open 7 days a week. So one thing we're exploring, and that's part of our proposal that we intend to do, is to start running a film series on Mondays through Wednesdays. These days, a digital film projector, which is what movie theaters use anymore, are so cheap that we can get a couple, because you'd want two in case there's a problem, and you can get a projection screen tailor-made to fit the Howard Street space for under $4,000. And it's one thing that the digital projectors have made possible, as I understand it, is the rebirth of a lot of what had been kind of wiped out, which is small film societies who can operate in libraries and classrooms and wherever. It also, we think, makes possible the kind of idea we're talking about, because the overhead is just not what it would be with the old-fashioned projectors.
Alderman Grover?
Thank you, Mr. Pastor. Thank you, Mr. McCabe, very much. I have a question, and it's about the cost of the renovation. Do we have an idea about what those costs are? I saw that we're going to work out those costs as we proceed negotiating with this memorandum of understanding being the first step. But have we done an estimate of the renovation costs? And
well, I think
there are numbers
our
out there.
understanding is that it's the architects who have to do that. I'm not sure where they are on the process.
All right. You have an idea?
Yeah, Bully.
Just a ballpark.
The drawings were done, and Bully Andrews estimated the cost. It's an estimate, estimated the cost of raising the roof and other improvements such as some plumbing and things like that. You've been in the space,
yeah, thank you.
so you know
I
how
do.
charming it is. We value engineered it down, and the request that we made a couple of meetings ago was for $600,000 for that building, for raising the roof and the other renovations. But that, it hasn't been put out to bid,
Right.
so that was,
Just a ballpark, please.
I think it's a high ballpark, I hope. Yeah.
So do I.
But then that doesn't include their lights and, their chairs and things
Yeah.
like that they're
You will
gonna
be
do.
bringing with you.
There's a portion of the build-out that's sort of preliminarily spelled out in our proposal that we'd be responsible for, basically what you'd expect a tenant to do. We don't expect the city to hang a sign out front that says City Lit Theater, that sort of thing.
But
Do
we
you-
will tell you what size it can be.
Do you envision doing a capital campaign for
Oh,
this
absolutely.
project
Yeah,
as well?
we've already
and
started those
tap into it?
conversations.
Do you think you'll keep your subscriber base, your fan base intact if you make the move? A couple miles north?
Yeah, it's 3.5 miles north.
Yeah.
And so, yes, essentially the answer to that is yes. There are some people we expect to lose, but not that many. And we expect, and certainly in even the medium run, to pick up more people once we're at Howard Street. When I was on staff at Wisdom Bridge, part of our experience there was that a lot of people who came to Wisdom Bridge were North Shore people who really wanted to be part of Chicago theater, but didn't want to have to actually go into Chicago to do it. But they were willing to come to Howard Street. And so we think that, we'll trade up.
I'm beginning to envision in Evanston kind of a theater arts district corridor that stretches from the Noise Center through downtown, Varsity Theater maybe, some of those performance spaces. What's it, Maine with John Shostak?
Piccolo.
Shostak Piccolo Theater, and then to Howard Street.
Yeah.
Be great.
As many of you know, last week, the chairman for the National Endowment for the Arts was here to tour downtown. We just recently got a grant to look at theater expansion, and one of the things that we talked about with him is having theater throughout the community on Howard, as well as where Noise Street and Piven Theater, as well as smaller theater groups like Mudlark, who work with children's groups. So I think there's a lot of excitement around that locally as well as nationally about that happening here in Evanston. So thank you. Alderman Rainey.
One of the interests, I wasn't able to attend that, although I wish I could have.
You were in warm weather.
Right. I did read his comments, and I thought the article that I read, the final comments that he made was, you know, there's nothing like performing arts theater to create a buzz on economic development and to get that engine rolling. So that is exactly the point here. The tax increment financing district financing a theater to then generate other opportunities for retail, services, whatever. In addition to this, we have, you know, in very extensive conversation and development of a plan, a wine bar, small plate establishment down the street. And today we got a letter from Lulu's, from Dan Kelch, saying, you know, he knows that you're a few blocks away from him, but he can see it in his mind's eye now, his setting up food for your performances, you know. I mean, he's seeing a synergy for people downtown, and I just think it's so unique and such a wonderful opportunity. And stay for the next meeting, that's really important.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
A5,
You didn't say opposed.
opposed. I saw that everyone said aye.
Okay.
And thank you, Ms. Neiden. A5, Ordinance 1-0-12, amending the city code to establish a three-way stop at Church Street and Judson Avenue. Staff recommends the adoption of proposed Ordinance 1-0-12, by which the City Council would amend Section 10-11-5C, Schedule 5-C of the City Code to establish a three-way stop at Church Street and Judson Avenue. Any questions? My only comment is in the packet. At first, I thought it read that the stop sign would cost us $40,000, which I'm really hopeful that was wrong. So just to be cautious of how we word the packet would be great. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any other items for discussion? Can we get a move to adjourn?
Oh, can I ask you something?
Yes, Alderman Rainey.
We're not going to discuss, I know that for action, but we're not going to discuss Oakton speed at all?
We discussed it last time it went on to council. It's a council.
Ready.
Move adjournment.
Can we get a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, committee.
When do we meet again?